Hello everybody, Glass Half Dead here, and today I wanted to talk about Killzone All of Martyrs environment expansion. So, I really like how this Killzone looks. I think all of it looks really cool, and I wanted to do something with it, build it up. As you may remember from my review of the entire expansion, I wasn't that big of a fan of the fact that the only thing in there that blocks line of sight is the bunker. And one of my main criticisms was that although the trenches are awesome, look great, and provide excellent cover, obscuring cover, they don't block any line of sight, and that makes things a little bit, very lopsided. Here we see all of the terrain. Now we're going to need a test model. I'll get one of those out in a second. Let's tell you what I'm actually going to do. So I love the trenches. I don't want to change them. I like them as they are. I think they're really cool. I do have another set of trenches from the Necron set. I will probably put them together as well. But first, we're looking at these. So those are good. 2 thumbs up. The bunker. I love the bunker. I think it looks awesome. I'm not going to change that, especially since it already covers the issue of blocking line of sight. This does. So we're sorted. So the bunker's all good. We don't need to think about the bunker again. So those are roughly the same, so we'll just move that out of the way. So with these 2 kits, the bunker, no, this is the trench. The trench, that's really spiky. Ow. I'm going to stop slamming my hands down on the scenery now, because that's going to hurt me. So this is the trench, and this is, I think it's called the firing pit, the command line. Let's call it the command line. Between these 2 things, I have to figure out how can we make something block line of sight. Well, very easily is the obvious answer. So I could just raise things up by like an inch, and it would be fine. That's all we need to add. We need to add an inch to something. Tops 2 inches. If we can add 2 inches, we're sorted. Because that is roughly an inch high. I seem to recall maybe an inch and a quarter. So I could do it to the trench. However, I've got 2 trenches, and in my mind, trenches are kind of meant to be in the ground. I'm happy to leave the trenches as they are. Now, these bits, typically, obviously I'll show you better once I've cut it all out, can just go on the end of a trench line, or create a little corner line that you can do another line off. So that they're cool, they connect to the trenches. However, they are also able to just be their own little thing. You can add these to them, just make them a little fortified pit. So my idea is to take these 3 because they're flexible, because they can be in different positions every time. If you have a trench that is raised, you basically have to, you have 1 raised trench. We're going to raise 3 bits at once. And then it can either slide together as 1 raised bit, like a trench, or we can have 3 individually raised bits throughout the map, the board. It's a board, not a map. Okay, so how are we going to do this? It's a good question, and I have 2 ideas for you, and I'm going to kind of meld them into one. So one of them is going to be done entirely one way. One of them is, no, it's not. We'll see how it turns out. But I'm going to do a little bit of a mixture on all 3 of them, and then if you like any of the ideas, feel free to copy them. The first thing you need is to cut these out. Hobby time. Okay, everyone. So, once you have cut these out, we can now see a little bit better what I actually meant when I said that they kind of fit together. You can have a nice little thing like that, or they could just be individual bits. And you take these, and there you go. That's its nice own little pulpit. They do actually, they have bits in there that fit. And that's, that's its own thing. Obviously, there are more of these that go with the trenches. So you don't have enough to actually permanently fix these in place. But I don't want to for this anyway, because I have a cunning plan. But that's not for this video so much. So, we have these set out. They're all locked in place because they have these snazzy little bits. They just lock in like that. Cool. What do we do next? How are we going to raise this 1 to 2 inches? First, we're going to need some models, okay? because we need to know the actual height that we want. Now, I recommend that you take a standard sized guy, which in this case I'm using a Dire Avenger because he's got that little hat, plumage bit, and if I'm not covering the plumage, he still can be hit, and therefore I've wasted my whole time if I'm not covering it. And then maybe take one that's slightly bigger, maybe your biggest model, so that you make sure perhaps at least with one of them, if not all, you cover the entirety of it. So I need a ruler, and I don't have one. Edit time. The first thing we need to know now that we have a ruler is exactly how high we want to make this. So the minimum height that I want to increase the height of these things by, and again I want to increase it from the base, is the height of this miniature. 2 inches almost exactly. This guy up here is sitting pretty at 3 inches. So we'll start with 2. All of these have to be raised by 2 inches. Just out of curiosity, this is only 1 inch. So that bit doesn't help us at all. Right, we need to add 2 inches to this bad boy. How can we do that? Well, we're going to need a few extra bits. The first thing we need is to move this out of the way. We're going to need some oven liner. And I suspect that for some of you, you instantly know where I'm going with the rest of this. But if you don't know, I'm going to drag it out so that you have to watch and I get more watch minutes, because that's how YouTube works. Okay, what's in here? Oh, that happened off camera, but I just hurt my miniature. Oh no. Here we go. So, the reason that we need some of this liner is because we are about to use something rather sticky. Usually this sort of material is like Teflon or PU coated, and the material we're about to start using won't stick to it. It will spray on and it will just spread out as it needs to do, but then once it's hardened you just pull it straight off and you have a lovely flat base. I don't need something this size, so this size should be enough. Will it? Oh, an almost perfect fit. Lovely. For anybody wondering, that is a solid 10 inches there by 5. 10 by 5. So this will do size-wise, because I don't want to go too far over the sides either, because once I've made this conversion, I do want it to still roughly be the same kind of footprint. Now, I'm going to do this the difficult way, because I want these to still be able to be put together once I've done this. Be viable on their own, but still be puttable together-ish. Do I? Yeah, why not? Why not? Or maybe I don't. You know what? I'm going to do what I do, and then we'll see how it ends up, alright? Because you could easily make it a little bit larger and just put a connecting bit of terrain, whatever there. That'd be easy to do, actually. You know what? Just in case, I've decided that's too small. We're going to use this. What we want to do here is ensure that, again, 2 inches minimum, preferably 3 inches if possible. To prove that's 3 inches, so the tip of the wing just goes past 3. It's more like 3 1/4. What you need now, you've got your terrain that you want to increase the height of, and you know, I'm only doing this on Wall of Martyrs because I think Wall of Martyrs is cool. You can do this on anything. You've got your non-stick lino PU coating Teflon thing, and then you want to go out and find the smallest can of expanding foam you can. Just bloody huge. This was genuinely the smallest one I could find. Absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, because the reason you want the smallest one possible, assuming that this is the only project you're doing, is because this will go off in about 6 weeks, no matter how much I use. As soon as it's opened, the timer starts ticking. And sadly, I don't have enough hobby time to really put it to good use. So you've probably figured out what's happening now. I am going to spray this expanding foam underneath here. The expanding foam will be strong enough for me to place this on top of the foam once it's been expanded a little bit. And it will then cure to it, stick everything together, and then I'm ready to go. Yeah. All right. I'm going to set things up and we'll come back, see how it looks. Okay, the other things you're going to need are gloves. Although yours shouldn't have a hole in the finger, I've had to cut that because I turn my phone on with the fingerprint sensor, but yours should not have that. And you also want some implements to just kind of poke things around, wipe it off potentially, just in case it goes crazy and gets on places you don't want it. And some sort of roll. You can always find a use for tissue paper in these sorts of things. With the implements arranged in some sort of arcane ritual type fashion. And my tester size models to the side, out of the way of what's about to happen, obviously. And your can thoroughly shook. My can is shook. I've already shook it, shaken it, whatever. What I'm going to do first is actually think about exactly how I want this to turn out. Do I want these to actually be individual bits? Because once I've sprayed this on, disconnecting them might be a challenge. Well, this is a tough one, guys. You know what? I'll spray them individually. FYI, guys, it has been a very long time since I have tried to do this. And I haven't practiced before this video. I'm just going to do it. See what happens. Where's the trigger for this? There it is. That's not the trigger? That must be the trigger. Alright. Okay, we're primed. The safety's off. Ooh, bit more. Ooh, almost dripped that on my model. Bit more. Don't worry, guys. This probably won't work. But we're here, we're having fun. Isn't that what Kill Team's all about? Okay. No. Good Christ. Ooh. And we push it down. Push it down. It's going wrong. Okay. Alright. Alright, there we go. That's kind of what we want, isn't it? Yeah. And we'd have that behind it. Okay, so we actually want it a bit higher. I pushed it down too much. Shit. Alright. It might be stuck. No, it's fine. Push it in. It's fine, guys. It's fine. This is the creative process summed up. I don't know what I'm doing. Neither does the phone because it's not sentient. But I treat it like it is. And yeah, that's life. I need a bit more. The perfect time to figure out I want a little bit more. Okay. Don't worry, guys, we're learning as we go. Don't worry, this is how the creative process works. If you've ever written a book, you will know. You make it up as you go along. Right, that goes there. It goes there. Perfect fit. Kind of. Then we're just... Alright. And that goes there. Some might claim it looks a touch haphazard. What can I say? The local guard regiment's logistics corps, they were new. Okay. And we're good. Push down a little bit, just to get that friction. Okay, it's tilting a bit. It's not what I want. Okay, not too bad. Height-wise, we're now where I want it to be. Good. Okay. So, I would like, and I don't know if this is actually a good bit or not, but I would like the sides of this. You know what? I can fix that in post. It doesn't matter too much, does it? It's fine. I'm going to leave a bunch of links down below for people that know what they're doing when it comes to this kind of thing. All I'm trying to do here is make sure that the bottom is kind of being touched, so that there's not some weird gap there. So that it looks connected, like it was built into it, kind of. And there you go. Cool. Right. Okay, everybody, I'm going to leave this to dry for however long it needs to dry. Then we'll come back. Okay, so while it's all curing, I thought I'd give you a few thoughts about where I went wrong and where it went okay. So, as you can tell, I've changed things up a little bit. This stuff is here because the footprint was just too big. So I cut it away with some of my implements. That's why I said you've got to have your implements ready. I have angled these two bits slightly that way. I also decided, after seeing just how big it was, that having one single fortification was just too much. And I definitely wanted them to be 3 individual bits. Luckily, the foam did that for me, basically, because obviously as it expanded, it pushed them apart. So that's going to be nice and easy to chop up. However, if I were to do it again, I would do them on individual blocks of this stuff, which is still, as you can see, jelly-like. But it's skinned over, so it is actually touchable. The other thing I did was basically, because I was using this 3 1/4 inch model as I want something that blocks this line of sight, I put it behind and I got down here for a model's eye view, and then I made everything that height, which made it really quite big. So that's why I then angled these 2 bits down, so that yes, the front bit may suffice for, or you know, the middle bit where it's actually at its highest blocks line of sight, but nothing else does. Also, don't forget, you would assume that other people are actually on the floor. So for this guy here to be able to see that model, he would need to be about that high. So this could have been significantly lower and still have quite adequately hidden this guy from line of sight, which I probably would do, because right now this is higher than the bunker is going to be, and that seems a little bit peculiar, I feel. Also, this is a remarkably big model. Not many models are going to be that high. So, for example, if you were just using a standard Space Marine, none of this would be this high. This is extra high, rocky terrain. However, apart from that, it went okay. I think the main takeaway is I would definitely do these as 3 separate bits, only because now when I cut it to make them 3 separate bits, you are going to get one side that looks a little bit square and straight compared to the others that are obviously quite fluffy. They're all going to be cut though. They're all going to get cut to be a little bit of a smaller footprint. Also, seeing how it's turned out, especially with the 3-inch height rule that I inflicted upon myself, I had originally had a plan that these would still connect to the trenches, but now they're too high for that, and I've decided I don't want to attempt to make that happen. So, gonna finish letting this cure, then cut it down so that I can actually get 3 individual pieces, shape the walls a little bit, which I will probably show you guys, and then spray it all up, and we will say, hey, that wasn't, well done, glass, you didn't just ruin your terrain. Right, see you after the cut. Okay, everybody, it's hard enough to cut in. Now, if I weren't rushing this so that I could make a video, I would recommend you leave this for significantly longer than I have. Ideally, leave it overnight. I've only left it like an hour. You should leave it longer. Minimum hour and a half. It says on the can, hour and a half until it cures if it's 3 centimeters thick. This is much thicker and it's going to take much longer. But the reason I've decided to cut it now is so that I can expose it to some air, help it cure a little bit faster, because I need to finish this video tonight. So, the first thing we need to do is cut this into 3 pieces. Hopefully you have seen the error of my ways and will know that you do these individually. And don't make them so high. And not with as big a footprint. Okay. This is a big knife. Use whatever knife. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, it's quality, that is. Solingen. Oh, yeah. Nice. Okay. So that's still just liquid in there. You know why? Because I did this too early, guys. That is never going to come off my knife. Yeah, it will. There are chemicals. It'll dissolve. Okay. Keep going. Cool. Again, guys. Leave this longer. Don't do it as quickly as I'm doing it. Oh, lovely. Nice. That was... What is this? Death Guard scenery? Cool. Right. So I am going to have to go and Google how exactly I can dissolve this from a knife. Because it's rather sticky. Right. I should have put gloves on. This has been a huge mistake. I should have waited. Feels weird. Okay. Again, this entire bit here is why you've done it all on this anti-stick mat. Because it is, if you get it on you, incredibly sticky. Okay. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. Okay, I've made an executive decision. I should have waited longer. But you know what? I'm making the mistakes for you. You guys wait longer. As we can see, this bit that was meant to be the highest is completely deflated. Because I didn't wait long enough. Okay. You know, we're just going to work with that. We're going to run with it. We'll make it work. Right. We'll come back in another hour, see what's happened. And we're back. Let's see if this is going to work. I've left it roughly another hour. So the insides aren't quite there yet. But the outsides are good. So why didn't I put gloves on? Honestly. It's like I hate myself. Which I do, so that kind of makes sense. But again, you guys won't have this issue because you're going to leave it overnight and then it's going to work just fine. So, there we go. That's what it looks like underneath. Lovely. And that's all still not cured yet. Delightful. Okay. Now, we do want this to be 3 separate parts. Oh dear. There you go. Now again, guys, going to be much easier had this, oh dear. Had this all been given time to cure, this wouldn't be an issue. Anyway, everybody, I am making these mistakes so that you don't have to. You're welcome. This one turned out decently. The other two are looking a bit... What I might actually do is go ahead with this one for the video and fix these two by spraying more of the foam underneath them. Oh, that's stuck again. just to tidy up the edges. Okay, that makes sense, doesn't it? Leave those to the side. That's going to need a bit more time to cure. Now, at least it gives me a base to move on from. We don't want these weird bits around the edge. Before we spray this up, we want to fix the outsides. Now, depending on how you carve it up is kind of depending what effect you're trying to get. I don't know what effect I'm trying to get, so let's see what happens. I had originally thought I was going to do this as like rock, so that these were kind of outposts on a cliff. But then I decided I wanted to do them kind of a bit more in theme. And so I'm going to make them just dirt mounds, really. I don't have anywhere to do this. I really need to leave this for a little bit longer. But I don't have time. It's really late and I want to go home. Okay. Let's figure this out. So we put it down. In theory, if this was cured, I'd just be able to cut this very neatly. It would be lovely. Let's find out what happens. So that was a nice cut until I got to the bits that weren't cured. So that's good. That's good. Let's keep going. Oh gosh. Now, when you're making these cuts, you don't really want, well, they don't need to be, you know, nice clean cuts. You're not okay with this, what I'm doing here. This is terrible, but only because I don't have enough room. Oh, you know what? I'm going to do it on that other piece of non-stick paper I had. It's not really big enough, but you know what? I've got no time. Let's go. All I'm trying to do here really is cut down on the footprint of it because it's a bit much. You don't really want it to be a neat cut either. If it's neat, then it doesn't look very natural. Neat is not great. Hasn't worked for shit, has it? Nope. In fact, it is shit, isn't it? Yep. Yep, it is. Okay, you know what, guys? I've screwed it up too much. I've pulled these bits off. I am now going to redo it. And we're going to come back and see how I've fixed it. But it means I'm not going to get it done tonight, so who knows when you're going to see this.